Hello everyone, come back to the Technology Innovation Hub. So it's going to be the third session from Cloud Portal. So we have been doing 2 sessions. So let's continue from there. Let me share the screen. So this is where we have stopped. I remember the last session we discussed the negatives. I finally mentioned that whatever negatives we have, it may be inevitable that we are organization have to go for cloud. So let's proceed from there. Right, so this is we discuss these things, right? Okay. Okay, right. So this is our next step, next slide. Calculating the cost for business. Yes. Now we have been discussing the benefits and why a business should move to cloud and the benefits of moving to cloud. So that discussion will more than important next slide. So this is the next step, the total cost of ownership, TCO. Of course, organizations will decide to go for migration, but they need to have a big plan on that, right? Because ultimately they are going to decommission or they are going to get away from their data center. Maybe the hybrid model may run for a certain time, right? But that is the plan. Otherwise, you can't be maintaining to cost on-premise, and there's no point. So that's why ultimately you should see what is the cost of ownership of your cloud reservation, reserved instances ultimately. So that's why, for example, this is from Gartner, right? So Gartner in general, right? In general, how it's happened when a migration starts and over the time, how the organization is going to benefit. It's been depicted, demonstrated in this graph. If you take a look at closely, you can see on this axis, y-axis, you have this axis, right? So vertically, you have the cost, and horizontally, you have the year. So this graph is going for 3 years, right? 3 years. It has been calculated, the analysis is done for 3 years. And the colors demonstrate, for example, this one on-premise cost, the dark blue kind of, right? On-premise cost and the migration investments on this color. And the blue color is the cloud cost and the light blue color is the efficiency that you are gaining. Right. Now, if you take a look at this one, you can see initially, right? At the time of migration starts, so this has been the on-premise cost for the organization. Right? So then as per the plan, the POCs and a lot of things are going to happen because you can't just jump into cloud, right? You need to make sure that applications are not the minimum impact. I mean, it may be the restructural redesign, even maybe an architectural changes may be there, and at the code level, maybe some codes are reusable, maybe some codes you need to bring from the scratch, right? So a lot of things you need to plan. So we are not going to discuss the migration plans here, but what we are planning to what we are trying to discuss here, the cost, right? How the cost is going to get prorated, forecasted over the time with the migration. So initially you are here with the on-premise cost and you start some POCs. So there will be a cost on cloud infra because you are allocating instances, you are allocating resources in cloud for your POCs. So that's year one. You can see year one up to here is year one, and from here year two, and at the end year three. Right, the Q1, Q2, the quarters are demonstrated. Right? So then with the time, migration will get started. Once the POC is done, migration will start maybe with the lowest impacted applications, less critical applications. We'll be trying to move to cloud bit by bit. So, and you can see still the on-premise cost is same. There is no change, but now this is little by little coming up, migration investments coming up, but still the cloud cost, the initial stage, there is no change. But here you can see in when you go to the latter part of year one, Again, you can see the migration investment because a lot of work is going to happen here with regards to migration. And now most of planning will enhance more, right? I mean, resource allocations, human labor cost, and a lot of things, the infrastructure planning, designing, and again, restructuring, a lot of things will take place. So migration investment, right? Okay. And this one, again, you can see cloud cost now a little gone high because now you are gradually moving the apps to the cloud, right? So this side is going up because you are utilizing more resources from the cloud now. So now you can see certain decommissions are happening on the fourth quarter of the first year itself. Due to that decommissioning, the cloud infra on-premise cost is little going down in the first year, little bit, right? You can see, but these are skyrocketing still, right? And cloud cost also going now. It's a peak point in migration planning, migration investment. So now you can see at the let's say at the end of the first year, so migration is done, kind of is becoming smooth now. So now you can see migration cost is going down. So the cloud cost becoming high because due to a lot of adjustments that you need to do, right? I mean, the workload now, the on-premise workload is going to occupy in the cloud. So therefore, there are performance things. So I mean, we need to till the business becomes smooth, till the application becomes smooth, we need to make sure the business is impacted minimum. Otherwise, now for example, let's say on-premise a particular program, a particular report came in 10 minutes. So when it's going to cloud, if the same report is going to come in 15 minutes, so that's going to be a problem. So initially, till the troubleshooting happens, we might plug in extra resources to make sure that report is coming on the same time for particular web page, particular application, like particular component. So we need to make sure the end users are not impacted, and we need to guarantee them the same performance. Just because of our migration issues, we can't hamper the end users, right? So therefore, we might plug in resources initially, increasing RAM, increasing instance, rest of the resources of the cloud instance, like so. That's why these costs currently you can see cloud cost is because it's just adjusting. We need to do a lot of adjustments here. That's why it is a little high here. So now you can see year 2, Q4, now it start to drop inside because now you know how the cloud workload behaviors, right? On-premise workload and the cloud workload. Now you understand a bit because this is the end of the second year. So now you can say this is the perfect sizing for us. If you get the instance, this is the perfect size. If you get the container, this is the perfect. You know, the perfect design, I would say the configuration. This is the perfect configuration for our workflow. So you tend to identify that now in the end of the second year. So therefore, you can do something called right sizing in cloud, right sizing. So then you can start scheduling policies. We'll talk those things about later in more details, right? So very important to define the policies once you identify the correct strategy in cloud for your workload. And then finally, you can go for reserving instance. Now it's almost third year. Now you can see we have almost decommissioned these areas because now data center cost is, I mean, it's kind of zero for you because you have done the migration completely. So now you are totally on the cloud. So then you can, once everything is well-tuned environment for your workload, you can reserve the instance. So then after that, it's just smooth cost only. You can see the drop, right? This is the end of the 3 years. This is the 3-year migration plan kind of a thing. So now you can see the cost reduction here, starting from here. As per Gartner, you can go for, it says they are telling 55%. So that is how a kind of a generic migration will take place when you go to lift and shift for the cloud environment. So if you want, we can go for this place. Let's take a look at the repo. I mean, let's go to the reference on the Gartner, right? So the details are here. So you can take a look at the document by clicking in the deck, and they're explaining the same thing. I have taken the same thing, right? So as per the explanation also, you can see the overall, while the saving infrastructure cost over time may look in organizations should bear in mind that the overall may still likewise. So they are telling over the time, right? So even though here it says cost has gone down, but you need to make sure that you are utilizing the resources in an optimal way. So you need to put the agreements and I mean right agreement, right with the right objectives, service objectives defined properly, and you need to do the proper agreement with the cloud vendor, right? To make sure this cost is not going up drastically, right? When initially the explanations are there, you can see cloud services can initially more expensive than running on premises, but I can see here the explanation, the same explanation that I did. Cloud services can become cost effective over time, right? So that's why it takes a little time. So that's why this chart says once end of the second year, you can see after that it's a standard cost only, so you are saving highly. But after that, maintaining also, you have to keep an eye. You have to closely monitor the vendors' agreements and what their conditions and all, and the changes, renew agreement renewals, a lot of things. So if you do it smoothly, you can maintain this cost at a lower level like this. Okay. All right. So that is that, and so now this is a example, right? A generic example. So if you want to get a clear idea about this, right, in detail, practically, how do you exactly calculate your cost? So each vendor provides you this TCO calculators, total cost of ownership calculators, right? So we can visit several of those vendors. We can go for the top vendors. So you can see TCO calculators. So let's go for Azure first. We go with Azure, right? So they have this nice calculator given, total cost of ownership calculator. If you go here, you can see we have to define our workload. That is what they are telling is, first of all, you need to, as per the workload running on-premise, the on-premise workload, you need to tell these are the configurations that we are running at the moment on-premise. So then they will calculate it and they will give the comparative analysis. So if the same workload is migrated to cloud, what's going to happen? So these are the savings you are going to do if the same workload is migrated to the cloud. So we can see, for example, let's say we can give you can give a name, workload 1. Enter the details of your on-premise server infrastructure. After adding workload, enter the remaining details. That's true. So on-premise workload, that's why I mentioned the current data center workload is this. So you can just give a name. That's okay, right? And we can say what is our server, right? Windows. So let's say Windows Linux. So let's say like that. Workload, and we can give physical servers. Yes, so physical servers, fine. And we can say it's Linux. The Linux and number of servers 2 and processors 2 and for cores for processor 4. Likewise, you can give randomly just to see how it works. And memory, let's say we are going to have 15 GB for these instances, right? And now optimized by CPU. That's okay, right? And we can further add another resource called database. So if you want to add databases, you can select whatever, MySQL or SQL Server or Postgre or Oracle Exadata. So if you add Postgre, right, and automatically they will load the default. So let's leave it as it is. And storage, and you can get the whether it's SATA or SSID or HDD. Let's put SSID, right? And capacity, likewise, okay, 1 terabyte, that's fine. And input output operations, you can give let's say 1000 IOPS. Right, so network, again, just leave them as it is. So let's see how they are going to generate the comparison analysis, right? And we are not going to change any of those things. Let's leave it deeper. But when you study these things, when you go to these, you can click on everything and see how the things are going to work. So everything is default, I am leaving. And here you can see at the end, now they will give a report like this. Over 5 years with Azure, your estimate cost savings could be as, that is, if migrated to cloud with Azure, they are telling as much as this much of dollars as per my workload. That is, they are telling that, right? So, and again, in the graph here, you can see the on-premise cost is going very high and the cloud cost is less. This is over 5 years. So 5 years means you are, as per the refresh cycle we learned in the previous slide. So hardware refresh cycle, at the end of 5 years, you can complete your migration to cloud, and this is with Azure. and you can have a dramatical, significant cost saving. So that's what they are telling. So on-premise for 5 years, you are having this, and Azure is more, I mean, less than half like this, right? So that's what they are telling. And they are categorizing it, compute this much, and that is according to the workload I gave, right? So you can see hardware, and very nicely they are giving analytical report for you, analysis. So just take a look at this, and it is again, the link is there, right? So this is with Azure, total cost of ownership, right? And not only them, you have others also. For example, if you take a look at Google, right? Google Cloud, right? They also give the same TCO calculation, but it depends on the, I mean, when there are slight differences, but it's the same thing. So you can see cloud, Google Cloud pricing calculator for them, right? So you can give the number of instances as 4. So I'm just getting the compute engine only, yeah, not the Oracle, not GKE, Google, not the Kubernetes, and no, right? Not Oracle, GKE, and which is engine. Right? Okay, that's fine. So we are not going to, we don't need to go there. Just stay with compute engine. A number of instances, and likewise we can select what are the OSs and all. Let's say so whatever fine, right? And machine general purpose, let's say memory optimized, and likewise this series M1, M2, likewise, and you can select the number of I mean the capacities, RAM and all. So if you give it like that, and you can say add to estimate, so then they will say something like this. But they estimate component cost US dollars per month. So they are giving the monthly cost. So you can get it email, and we can compare with our existing cost with on-premise. Just go to these calculators for you to get a detailed understanding of what this TCO means. So even with Oracle, AWS, IBM, Alibaba, they also give. If you go to Oracle, you can see they are also giving the total cost of ownership calculation. Right. Okay, so just go through it. No need to go one by one, but if you can do it later. So that's what is mean the migration calculating. That how do you calculate the cost and get an estimate prior to that? Definitely, it's going to be a saving, right? That's the most experience from the industry as of now, right? So this is Magic Quadrant for cloud infrastructure platform, cloud infrastructure and platform services from Gartner. This is end of August 2020, the latest from Gartner. You can see the giants still maintain. So AWS securing the top spot for 10th consecutive year. So you can see that, right? They are maintaining, but very soon these people are coming, right? So giants, 3 giants are there, AWS, Microsoft, and then each players are there, Alibaba, Oracle, IBM. So that's just for you to give an idea about the giants, right? So as for Gartner. So this is about the dominance of the 2 giants, right? So because if you further narrow down the analysis, so you can see Azure and AWS is dominating the market. So that's how, as of now, 2021, and for the future also up to 2023, and they will keep on, the both players will dominate. And the dominance of the 2 giants, I can see Azure and AWS combined control more than 50% of the worldwide cloud infrastructure services. So if you combine, it's more than 50%. So that's what they are telling. So this bar chart, so you can see explain the same thing. So if we get the vendors, these colors, AWS in this color, and Azure, you can see this is AWS in Q3 2020, 220, and if you add it up, so it comes to actually 50%. So likewise, that is how the dominance of the 2 giants. Others also there. So just to give you an idea about, and this one you can see the growth of infrastructure usage. So it's very significant. So definitely with this COVID situation, all people are, I mean, working from home, and those things, that has drastically increased the use of the cloud, right? And again, you can see the push from the pandemic to work remotely is very significant. That's what I just mentioned. So Gartner forecasts that the number of users for DaaS will grow over 150% between 2020 and 2023. Right. So what is DaaS? DaaS is desktop as a service. Desktop as a service. So Gartner is predicting the growth will be more than 150%. They will in years, right? So I can go this reference. Click here to take me to that reference. Let's go there and see what exactly it's telling. Right? So DaaS service, desktop as a service. So if you go up, why COVID-19 drove the increase of DaaS. So the details are here. And if you go down further, you can see that's okay. This is another very important report for IT leaders to go to. We will take a look at it later. It's a separate analysis has to be done on that, right? And the CEO and CXO levels, right? And you can see this one also. And if you go further down, yeah, this is what a DaaS project, desktop as a service. Implementations grew during the pandemic, but those still built solely with purpose of saving cost and more likely to fail. So that's what they are as another in DaaS project. Implementation grew during pandemic, but those builds solely with the purpose of saving cost are more likely to fail. That means we need the enhancement of it, right? So that's true. I mean, this is as per the requirement they have built, but again, what they are telling, a leading global software company reported triple growth desktop as a service. So you can see that, and this is the same thing, 150 growth. Gartner forecast that the number of users DaaS will go over 150 2020. So it's the same thing, right? So if you go further, as per this report, if you click here, desktop as service, you can see the 6 trends on Gartner hype cycle. So I just click on that link, this one, desktop as service. The 6 trends on the Gartner hype cycle as per 2020, right? So if you take a look at it closely, if you go down, the trend 1 and trend 2, trend 3, and this is the hype cycle. You can see smart workplace, right? Smart workplace. So that is being topped, right? And if you go down, smart workplace, that is being explained as a top trend out there. So smart workplace leverage the growing of digitalization, like that. You know what is smart workplace, because okay, after the pandemic, let's hope people have to, if they, I mean, very soon they will have a return. So, but the buildings that they were used earlier prior to the pandemic, when they coming back to office, maybe return to office, so there will be significant changes on those smart workplaces, right? And that's what they're doing. And here, what I was mentioning, desktop as a service. Desktop as a service provides users with on-demand virtualized desktop. So that's why COVID-19 highlighted the value of business continuity strength in DaaS, virtual desktop infrastructure. So we can go through these trends, right? So it's a very big demanding thing. And we can further look at it from what does it actually means when it comes to the real implementation of desktop as a service. To go back to the previous document. Yeah, if you want to take a look at what exactly desktop as a service, okay, we can go here. Let's take a look at, okay, let's go to Azure, right? Let's say Azure desktop as a service. You can see. Okay, let's go on here. Azure desktop as a service, right? So if you want to really see what it is, we can, yeah, to go here. Yeah, let's go from here. So you can see Azure Virtual Desktop. That's what this means, right? So this is their product. AWS also has workspace concept, right? So you need to start with that, right? You can click start for free, and yeah, start for free. You need to have a login. No? Let me see whether I have a login. Yeah, I have logged in as my user. Looks like, yeah, let's use the existing subscription. So this is from Azure Desktop as a Service. So you can see, we can search it here. I already have it here. Otherwise, you can search it. Azure Virtual Desktop. This is their way of doing it. So you need to start host pool and create it and configure. Of course, this is not the time to do that. This is not a technical session. But this is what it looks like. So this will give the same experience as your desktop, like currently you are using, but more advanced. You can share the documents online, real time. Collaborate. We learned those benefits right in the previous session. So just to give you an idea, as per you can see, desktop as a service. So it will there will be big demand for that, right? Okay, right. So let's go to the next one. Right. Okay. So let's have a break here. So our next session is going to be the service comparison, AWS versus Azure service comparison, because we are going to go through each and every service offered by this giant vendor. For example, AWS, Azure, GCP. If you take a service virtual servers, what is the relevant product relevant service given by AWS? What is it given by Azure, right? So Azure pass, so what is given by this? Likewise, we are going to go through the major services offered by different vendors, the giant three vendors, and we are going to get into the details and see. So I'll meet you soon in the next session. I hope you enjoyed the session. So if you like the video, you can put us up. All right, have a great day. Right, okay, bye bye.